So Nick, thanks for bringing the car in.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. So let's go over the basics. We're looking at a G Series Targa. What year is the car?
It's an 82 car.
Okay. So 915 gearbox and 3-litre engine.
Yes.
Yeah. Nice. The colour combination is something to talk about straight away, really. It's the first thing that you really notice.
Yeah.
What is the shade?
Brown is the word you're looking for. Well, bronze. It's so it was, I would say sold to me, not sold to me. I bought it at auction, but they made out as a hell bronze.
Okay.
Actually, as far as I'm concerned, on the Porsche certificate, it's not hell bronze at all.
Right.
It's pewter metallic is what it says in the book.
Interesting.
Hell bronze is slightly golder, slightly yellower, and the pewter metallic is kind of greyer, more kind of silvery than.
That's a really interesting shade. It's almost like it's got a little bit of pink to it.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. Really, really nice. So you bought it at auction?
I bought it at classic car auctions in 2018.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it was a box that needed ticking.
Yeah. And so were you setting out looking for a 911, obviously?
Yeah, I was looking for a specific SC Targa. That's what I was looking for, and an interesting colour combination.
Yeah. Well, certainly that. Yeah. I love the curve of the rear glass on the Targas.
Yeah.
It's just stunning just to see that kind of curve is just not something you see nowadays, really. Yeah, it's gorgeous. And the interior is a Porsche interior.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fantastic as well. Has that been retrimmed or is that original?
So when I bought the car, this had the original, well, not the owner before me had put in a 924 interior.
Interesting.
Yeah,
a 924 interior into a 911.
So he blacked out the whole car. So all the door cards were painted black. So the car was original, tan leather, this interior. But when he took on the car, I guess it was looking tired. It was, I've got the original seats actually, and they are kind of worn and pulled apart.
Right.
So the guy before me put in black interior with the diagonal Porsche script. You've probably seen it. And blacked out all the door cards, blacked out all around here. Whether he did the dash, I don't know. I think that's pretty original. I think it could have come black, but yeah, my sole intention was to bring the car back to.
So how did he fit a 924 interior to a 911?
Yeah.
So we're talking about
it's just the door, just the
seats.
Just the seats.
Okay.
Yeah.
For a second there, I was like, "Fucking hell, how's he done?"
No,
that can't be quite right.
No, just the seats. Obviously, these bits were kind of
retrimmed as well. I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah, they must have been. Yeah, the Porsche interior is really cool. It's funny, it's one of those things that they were really out of vogue around, 90s, 2000, and they've really come back really strongly now.
Yeah, it was one of the reasons why I was attracted to the car in the first place, because when it was in the auction, it had a blacked out interior, but because they'd had the certificate of authenticity brought back, all you had to do was it said, it doesn't call it Porsche in the certificate, it calls it beige and tan velour, I think is the name for it. And I knew immediately that was Porsche, and that was one of the jobs that I needed to do.
Really nice. Thing is like, I think if it had all been brown, it probably would have been a bit too much, but actually the balance here, I think is just about right. It's great.
It's nice. I've toyed with the idea of, you've probably heard of the cocoa mats. They do slightly different, you can have a black and kind of tan dotted floor mats, and that might kind of break up the black a bit, but I kind of like it.
I like it like that. For me, the cocoa mats are kind of better on earlier cars.
For sure.
For this kind of generation, So have you done much to the car? How standard is it? How modified is it?
So I bought the car I had a 911T, 72 911T before this.
Nice,
I sold that at auction as part of the business growth. So part of the money that I got from that went to some car storage ramps, and part of it went to, I need a car that I'm not so precious about. And the SC is a nice introduction to kind of Porsche ownership. So it was, relatively speaking, quite, I'm not going to say cheap, not as expensive as, say, some of the others. And some of the provisos that I had on my list of things that the car needed to have done was restored, because I didn't want to restore it. This thing's had a full bare metal respray.
Right.
New sills, both sides, in and out. New wings, both sides. new rear wings.
Geez, so it had quite a lot of work.
The whole lot, and it was all documented, all in photographs, all documented, and by a company called Norfolk Premier Coachworks, which I'd heard of, which I'd had dealings with on the previous car. It also had the engine completely rebuilt. I call it a blueprint rebuilt top end, bottom end. By Nick Fulljames at RedTech.
Yeah, so Nick is now the head engine builder at Tuttle.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh,
so he shut up shop with the idea of taking it easy and taking it slow.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, Nick isn't someone who can take it easy.
Yeah.
And he eventually got pinched by Tuttle, and he's now running their engine room.
Brilliant. Okay.
So for those that don't know, Nick is really a premier. What do you call it, engine builder, and he really knows his onions. I think at the height of RedTech, there were like something like 45, 50 engines going through his workshop.
Is that right?
And it was like a 3-man team.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of output for a small shop at the time.
So they were the two things that were absolutely essential for me. An engine rebuild, and this was rebuilt, so it's got 123,000 miles on the clock now.
So barely
this
broken
was rebuilt with 110,000 miles, so just about 8 years ago.
So it's had 10,000 miles put on it since. So barely broken in, basically.
Exactly. And it just is the most fantastic engine.
It's a very clean engine bay, very tidy. It looks very smart. Yeah. No, he's very good at his detail work, so I'm not surprised. Sound pads in good condition as well. I mean, these tend to sag, don't they, over time?
Yeah.
So that's looking really smart. Very cool. Okay. So were there any upgrades done at the time, or was it just a straight rebuild?
Well, I knew you were going to ask me questions like this, so I went through the whole the build sheet, and I think they had some oil cables. I don't know. My son's going to laugh at me now.
Yeah.
He'd say, the twin overhead ashtrays are really shiny, but there's a few elements that are slightly tweaked. Okay. But essentially they call it a blueprint rebuild, which I suspect means as factory.
Yeah. Okay.
No sports exhaust, no kind of performance upgrades like that. But
it's interesting because a lot of the time, people say around the 100,000 mile mark, these engines need rebuilding, and I think generally speaking, there is some truth to that. But if they've been really well looked after and oil changes have been done when they should be, and all the rest of it, then actually it's not as necessary as they always say it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, now it'll go on for another 100,000 miles. That's for
sure. That was, like I say, that was part of my thinking for getting a car that I can just jump in and use. And this thing is, I don't think it's ever given me any trouble really. Obviously, you get it serviced every year. You make sure you change all your fluids, and any little bits that need doing, you get seen to. So it's had some love.
No, they're really strong engines. Yeah, this generation, they're lovely. I love this detail as well over here.
Yeah.
The Porsche crest and the embossing as well.
Yeah, and the SC logo I think is probably the best out of the whole of the 911 range, if you ask me.
Yeah, slightly biased, but I can understand that. It is a gorgeous logo, I'm not going to lie.
It's so cool,
It is very
straight
cool.
out of the 80s playbook, or late 70s, early 80s. And
it is very cool.
Yeah, it is good.
Oh, that's lovely. And so the whale tail is original to the car? Or the turbo spoiler, really?
So, again, on the certificate of authentic, whatever that word is, the Porsche certificate, they packaged the whale tail with the front air dam and the Bilston shocks as the sports equipment upgrade bundle, whatever you want to call it. And I think, I'm probably, your viewers will tell me if I'm wrong, but I think that was a UK-specific bundle.
Interesting, okay.
I know people did it. I read a book by an ex-racing driver, Tony Dron. I don't know whether he's any good or still with us, bless him, but he used to sell the 911s around about the time the SC came out, and he said the people that didn't spec the sports package were basically driving a car that was totally unmanageable. You could, this wasn't just a looks good addition, it was actually a really useful thing to have on the car.
Certainly the front splitter, that little dam that comes down, that rubber made a big difference in time. Yeah, interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah. And so I can't help but notice, but you've got a Marshall amp there on the ground. Yeah. So what's the story behind that?
Well, it's not an amp, it's a speaker. The story is, the actual stereo doesn't work.
It's a speaker. So the stereo doesn't work, so you've got a speaker there.
Yeah, the stereo does work, but it kind of runs a fraction of a second slower than it should.
Okay.
So when you're playing the tape, it kind of it speeds up, it slows down. It's not the greatest thing.
Okay, fair enough.
And there's no aerial. So I think these did come with aerials somewhere, probably on that side. And I didn't want to put in an electric aerial, so there's no aerial on the receiver, so you just get a bunch of white noise. But the tape player works. One of the upgrades I need to do really is put better speakers in and then maybe get it Bluetooth.
Yeah, fair enough.
But the Blaupunkt Bamberg came with the cars, I think, with 930s and the SC. So it's pretty...
I don't recognise that stereo.
Do you know?
It looks period correct to me, but...
Yeah. Well, if you look in all of the... I've got an 80s brochure, and in all of the fascia pictures in the 930,
it's that one,
it's the Bamberg that's in it, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. And you're running a prototypo steering wheel as well, slightly smaller diameter than standard?
Yeah, there's a story behind that, and I'm not a big fan of it, just because of what you said. It's too small.
Yeah?
Yeah, I don't like it. The original's being retrimmed.
Okay, cool.
And that'll go back on just as soon as it's finished. But no, my daily is a Defender 90.
Right, okay.
So I like this.
Yeah. That's interesting, because I mean, most 911 owners, the first thing they do is they take out the bigger steering wheel and go for a smaller one.
Yeah, no, I don't like it. It's too small.
Fair enough. Okay. Yeah. I like the horn press on it as well, actually.
Yeah, it works as well. It's nice.
Yeah, it's nice to see them embossed. You don't usually see those. Usually it's like just the standard kind of enamel ones, or not enamel ones, but the plastic ones. Yeah. Nice. Okay. Really cool. So how do you use the car? Is it something you use for like road tripping? Is it a weekend car? Does a family get involved?
It's probably more of a weekend car, because obviously I'm working during maybe during the week. In the summer I'll use it daily. I live on a high street, so my outside parking is on the high street. It fills me with fear. But I hate to say it, but my son uses his car more than I do now.
Does he?
So
sorry, just to interject then, are you saying that this lives on the street?
Not anymore, no.
Okay.
No, that's half the reason why I don't use it kind of as much as perhaps I would do, because if I take it home, then it lives on the street.
Okay, sure, get it.
Yeah, and that's...
So your son uses it a lot?
Yeah, so my son works for Export 56, we talked about those guys before. He's an apprentice there at Heritage Skills Academy, and he services this car through, with the help of, obviously, the head mechanic.
Brilliant, so that reduces the bill of fare chunk.
Hardly. I wish, sorry, mate. Yeah. No, I mean, it's done through Export 56.
You bring it to Export 56 as opposed to him coming over to your place and doing the service.
Exactly. So it always goes to Export 56. All of my cars have been through those guys. And
no, I had this idea in my head that he was coming over to yours and just doing it, at home at your place.
No. Well, he's actually building his own 924 at the minute, so that's what's in the garage.
Okay.
But no, him and the guys at Export look after this.
I was going to say, otherwise he's doing you a pretty bad deal if he's your son and he's not doing you a good deal on the service, considering he's a mechanic.
This is very true. I was always told, though, the friends and family discount is always plus 20%.
Oh, really?
Yeah, rather than minus 20% or whatever.
Do you know what? I always have this view that actually if it's friends or family, never ask for a discount.
Yeah.
Because they're friends and family, so you want to support them and help.
Exactly.
So if they offer it, cool, fine, take it.
There's
if they
nothing
don't,
I hate more than
I've always had a view
rates.
never to ask if it's friends or family.
Yeah, mates rates is a myth as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. And so I can't help but notice that we are in March. It's pretty cold out there, and there's no roof on. So have you driven down here without the roof? Okay, good. So you're using it as long as it's not raining, with the roof off?
Well, I once took a picture of it and put it on Instagram, and I had an Australian guy say, take the roof off, man. So I tried my very best to not drive it with the roof on. My son's the same, so he took it to a car show in Stone Stratford on New Year's Day, no roof.
Nice.
If it's not chucking it down.
The thing is also, the theory is that with the Targa top, that actually the wind isn't buffeting in the back of your neck, so
it doesn't.
You're not gonna feel the cold. And do you find that that's true?
It is, and if you can work out the heat and get that right, then actually it was pretty good. It got a bit chilly today, but it's like 0 degrees or something, so
nice.
It's doing well.
Yeah, fair enough. No, that's good. I think our viewers in the States and in the sunny states would certainly be impressed that that in England in the middle of March, that what's called.
But
people are running around
it enhances the driving.
No, but I think you know that's part
brilliant.
of it. I mean, if you're going to wait for sunny weather in England to take your Targa top off, you're never going to bloody use it.
Exactly. It's like
so you've got to have that attitude of like, you know what, it's not raining, get the Targa off.
Yeah.
It's part of the fun, part of the journey.
Yeah.
And I think with a Targa, it's the perfect car to do that with.
Exactly.
I don't think I would do it personally with a cabriolet because I would get cold. But I think with a Targa, it's the perfect car for it.
Yeah.
It's such a special design. It really is. The curve of this rear windscreen and the roll bar over the top as well. So this has obviously been changed or restored.
I think the whole, I mean, as part of the whole restoration project that happened, I think the Targa top's actually been restored twice now.
Has it?
Both times by Southbound. So again, another name that I was looking for when I was buying a car.
Definitely. I mean, they're at the top of their game when it comes to trimming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think they were involved in the elements of the Targa top. Certainly the top itself has been retrimmed. I think it's probably vinyl and the underside is all new. Probably been changed twice now. So
nice. I mean they're tricky things to redo. They really are. And I think if you buy a new one from Porsche, who was it the other day who was saying that? I can't remember. They were saying something like it was like 15 grand for a new one if you were to try and buy one from Porsche.
Grand. Wow.
And I don't know whether they're available anymore, but it was something along those figures.
That's it.
So yeah, I think you know investing in the right person to retrim your Targa top is the right thing to do.
Yeah, and it's a good bit of kit when it's on as well. The only thing you'll hear is you get a bit of wind noise between the gaps in the seals. It's not, you know, the roof when it's in is solid.
But to be fair, like what's called, I always think of driving Porsches as it's about quality, not quantity. So for the quality, you want it to be, you don't want it to be pissing it down because that's no fun really driving in the rain, low grip and all the rest of it. It's not exactly right. So if it's not raining, you're not going to have the Targa top on. So actually, I'm guessing it probably doesn't go on very often at all.
No, it doesn't. When I store it, when the weather is bad, the Targa top sits on it.
Sure.
But you rarely kind of push it into the frame. It's just kind of sat on there because if you store them enclosed, it kind of puts in creases into the vinyl and stuff. But yeah, you try not to use it.
So how long have you had the car?
2018, December 2018.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
And have you done any big, long road trips with it at all?
I think the furthest I've been in it is down to Goodwood and back a few times.
Yeah.
So the main kind of events I like to do are members meeting and Bicester Scramble. So we're over here all the time.
Nice.
To Bicester, I mean. Down to Goodwood is, if you can do it, you know, off the main highways and certainly off the M1 and M25, then
no, it's a nice run down to Goodwood.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So the car sits a little bit lower than what I would expect. So has something been done there in terms of suspension work?
Yeah. So one of the first jobs that we did, one of the first jobs I did when I bought it, I always felt the out of the factory they sit a little bit too high. So we tweaked the suspension, lowered it just slightly.
And that's just on the standard torsion bars, I'm guessing?
Whatever was already on it, which was
Okay, cool.
Which was standard.
Nice.
And then we replaced the original Fuchs, which were 6s and 7s, and put these newer Maxi-Lite 7s and 8s.
Nice. So that gives you a bit more flexibility in terms of tyre sizes, I'm guessing.
Exactly, and the car rides really well. It's a lot more planted now. I think that it's not really stance so much, but you know, I have a rule that I've nicked off the guys at Export 56. They say if you can get your hand between the tyre and the top of the arch, that's the right level of height for a 911. Whereas originally, I think you could get your fist between the top of the tyre and the bottom of the arch on the old kind of ride height. So we've lowered the car a little bit.
Nice. Well, it sits really well, and the wheels sit really nicely in the wheel arches as well.
Yeah, they kind of fill the space quite well, don't they?
They do, definitely. And you were telling me about that the car came to you with some different wing mirrors and headlight rings.
That's right. So the guy before had done some upgrades, I'm assuming of his own. He'd had the teardrop, I think they're the 964 wing mirrors. So we put the original flags back on, found some off eBay, resprayed them.
So when he'd done that, had he changed the bases as well, I guess? Because the 964 bases are what are these ones?
Yeah. So it was exactly like that.
Okay. So you had to change the bases as well, I guess. Yeah. Interesting. And so when you did that, did you have to do any paint work? Because often enough, like what's called, there'll be a mark of where the rubber was and where it hasn't seen the sun and so on.
So my guess is, and I wasn't part of the process, the guys at Export did that, was, you know, they've either flat and polished around there, and I doubt they'd have to have painted it, because they've never said, they'd obviously painted the wing mirrors to match. Mm-hmm. I mean, of course, the other thing that you don't bear in mind when you think about these things is all the electric. So I think it was an option to have the passenger side electrified as well. Mm-hmm. That's the right word. As well as that, and the little nipple moving thing to do that was really painful.
I'll tell you what, these are definitely the right mirrors for the car, because I just think the teardrop mirrors are just so much more modern in style, and these have the rubbers around them, all the plastics around them that really fits in with the deformable bumpers, the accordion bumpers. And you were saying that it had chrome headlight rings as well.
So when I got the car, when I picked the car up from the auction, I got a box of stuff, and it had the old flags that were unusable, and the car came with the chrome headlight surrounds. So immediately I thought, that isn't what the 80s car should look like. It should have those on it, it should have the flags on it, and it should have these on it. And you know, it's not, as much as I love the 3-litre Carrera, this isn't one. And I wanted it to make it as 911 SC as possible. So we put the headlights back on. I think
it's a bit of a weird combination to do, to like forward date the mirrors and then back date the headlight rings. Normally one person goes, you know, in one direction or the other. You know, not both.
And it's odd because there's no chrome in any other place. And you know, they called this the blackout, really, because it had the black rubbers around it, and obviously the black Targa
roof.
So
okay,
just ties it all back in.
I think you were right to make that decision. I think it looks great this way.
Yeah, and the other thing I did that isn't obviously 911 SC is put the Carrera Go Faster stripes down the side. Now for me, I did that just because it breaks up the colour, the massive colour.
No, I think it looks great, to be honest with you. And it's added another 10 horsepower or something like that?
Oh, at least. At least.
No, that looks cool. Okay, awesome. Well, I'm trying to think, is there anything else you want to tell me about the car? Or?
No, I don't think so. No. I think...
well, Nick, thank you so much for bringing it in. It's a really interesting car with a good story, so I appreciate it. Cheers.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Cheers, bro. Cheers.